Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pixelated Perfect podcast. Today, I have with me a special guest, Mansoor. He is a user experience researcher. And so most of the people on the podcast have been designers. And so I'm really excited to kind of introduce and talk to a researcher a little bit more. And so a little bit about him, a little intro about Mansoor is he is a user experience researcher at IBM right now, which is super awesome. And he's really passionate about providing information necessary so that all designs make sense with the user and with the research conducted. He also has a background as a designer. So I'm excited to kind of talk, and we were talking about this a little before the podcast started, about your background, where you come from, and kind of being that designer background and how that influences the research side of things. So Mansoor, thank you so much for being here.
First of all, hello everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity right now you are giving to me.
Of course, we're super excited to have you. So let's just hop into it because I have so many questions for you. So to kick it off, I would love to ask, what does being a designer mean to you?
For being a design or being a designer, design means like to create. It is a process of envisioning or like creating something valuable for the user, which makes our life easy. So for me, design is that.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I feel like sometimes so many people go into all the details of design and what it means, but at the end of the day, we really just want to make users' lives as simple and easy as possible so they don't even like realize there's any friction or there could be friction. Everything is just rainbows and sunshine. So I love that. I think that's powerful. And now can you explain like what a role as a UX researcher is? What is your role as a user or UX researcher?
First of all, being a user researcher is a bit hard these days because people don't know the exact what is the importance of researches, mostly our clients. So first of all, user actually understand what are the users need. Sorry, designer actually or researcher understand what are the users need, conduct research to gain insights into the needs, preferences and behaviors of the users. So first of all, user researcher don't only get the data, but it makes the data into valuable insights. That is the anatomy of insights, right? So by understanding the end users goals, expectations and pain points, user research provides valuable information to the designers, helping them creating product that are user centric and meet the needs of the target audience. This help ensure that final design is relevant, useful and usable for the end users. Second thing is identifying the design opportunities. Like user researchers identify opportunities for improvement in existing product. If there is some existing product, so where are the opportunities we can make it more valuable, right? Uh, they gather data and feedbacks from the user, analyze it, and identify the patterns and trends and the areas where the design can be optimized. This information helps designers identify area for innovation, make informed design decisions, and create products that better align with the user expectations. Third is like our role is like testing and validating design ideas. That is a collaborative process, right? So when we are making some solutions or we are making some prototypes, after that testing and validating is more important for that, so that our product will not fail, right, at the higher circumstances. So researcher conduct usability testing, user feedback sessions to evaluate the effectiveness of design ideas and prototypes. So, one other thing is that collaborative with cross-functional team, like user researcher collaborate with designers, product managers, developers, business analysts, and other stakeholders to ensure that user research findings are integrated in that design process.
Yeah, and so some questions
Yeah.
about that. I love how you kind of broke it out into the main, like the role of a UX researcher. And you talked about collaboration, especially at the end. So how do you personally work with like teams and designers? Like, because it's interesting because that role is a fine line, right? Between like designer and researcher, because you guys all need the same data or the same insights. So how can you like divide and conquer, and how do you work with?
So first of all, this is collaborative. Like in IBM, we provide our own process of research and design and the whole process of loop, right? So this first of all, like we researchers, we collect the data, we collect the data and we analyze that data and we make that insights from those data. We don't provide the data, we provide the insights from that data, right? That insights, like for example, a user want to drink soft drink or he wants some juice or only water, right? So how he will know? Like a user want to drink in glass or want in bottle. So first of all, we provide that insight. On the basis of that, designer will know that he want to make a glass or he want to make a bottle, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah, and I think I thank you for the example. That's a good way to distinguish it.
Yeah.
And I guess like how in this cross-functional team, is it basically like do you guys work in sprints, or how do you work to be able to get to that finish line or to iterate? Is it like every week you guys have a start of the week, this is what you're going to work on, these are the insights you're going to gather, you're going to give that feedback to designer, the designer is going to be building it out the next week? What does that kind of structure look like?
So there are the playbacks of everything. So first of all, being a researcher, we don't know, like there are different things. First of all, like sometimes we get a healthcare problem, sometimes we get a banking problem, sometimes we get an AI problem. So first of all, being a researcher, it was our duty to understand the ecosystem, right? What is the existing ecosystem. So first of all, we work in the playback manners where there are project managers, different team members, right? Developers, sponsor users, different stakeholders, product managers, that we called zero playback. And in that, they make us to understand what are the existing ecosystem. And then we do our research, and in every step we do the playbacks with those teams, so that to understand like we are on the right track or wrong.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I love that you have a name for the playbacks. That's interesting. And then piggybacking off of that, I guess, is your background. Maybe we can talk about your background, because you have been a designer and other things. So like, how has that played into how you conduct user research?
So first I did my bachelor's in computer application. That was totally apart from design and research. I completed my bachelor's in computer application, that is BCA from Kashmir University in India, the most beautiful place after Switzerland. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah. After that, I got to know about the UX design. First of all, I got to know about the UX design. Then I started surfing on Google and all that. What is this course about? And I was totally interested into that. Then I did my master's in user experience design, and at that time, I found out that my research part is more strong. So I indulged into that research part. So it is not like, yeah, my background is not completely a designer, but half is as a developer, half is as a designer, right? So people have the myth like they can't do design or research because they don't have the background of design. So it's just a myth.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And a couple of things about that is, do you feel like having that knowledge of like computer science, the dev side of things, and then having some knowledge about the design side of things helps you in your UX research?
Yeah, sometimes it helps because you already I said like you are working in a collaborative manner. So sometimes you are working with the developers, what are the technology constraints, what are the protocols. Like if you are making solution which can't be done into that technology, which is proposed by the developers or engineers. So you have to keep in mind that thing, right? So on the basis of that things, codings and all that, that helps me a lot, like the knowledge of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I've talked to quite a few designers on the podcast in the past that have like a developer skill set, and I see the value of that. Like if I relate to myself, I don't have that, and I definitely feel like that's something missing. And so I think that's really great that you can pull from like this your existing studies, like what you've done in the past, what you've learned, to be able to kind of like relate and collaborate better with your team.
At
I
least,
think that's
at least you should have the basic knowledge, what like the flows. Like we are also in designing, we are also doing the task flows, right? Or information architecture, right? In
right.
the same way, we are also doing in the development. There are the task flows and different things. Like we have to understand that. So these are the basic things we can do that. For example, the C programming. Uh, I don't think so. No one knows C programming these days. Like even the kids like have the C programming, right? So it's not hard, very that mountain climbing thing like you can't do. You should have the basic knowledge of that. That's it.
Totally. I think that's really great feedback for anyone that's looking to get into design, research the UX field, is like knowing, doing the upfront work of understanding the different players in the game will add a lot of value to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my
Yeah. Right.
next question
Right.
for you is I would love to understand your perspective on researching for maybe more of a startup type of company versus doing research for a large company. So obviously you work for IBM, so that's a large company. I'm sure you do lots of research there, but what's the difference between if you were to try to research for more of that startup space?
Yeah. So first of all, I did my internships and I did 1 year in healthcare as a service designer in healthcare department. That was also a startup company, and I did my internships from startup companies. So India is a hub of startup companies right now. So, talking about research in startup companies, they follow some lean and agile method because small startups often have limited resources and need to move quickly. Lean and agile research methods such as rapid prototyping, guerrilla testing, and iterative feedback loops can be effective in quickly gathering insights and making informed design decisions with significant time or budget constraints. Uh, Second thing is target research. Like startup have a specific target audience or niche market, right? So research efforts should focus on understanding the needs, preferences, and behaviors of the specific audience to inform the product or the service design. This can involve conducting in-depth interviews, surveys, or observational studies with the target users to gain insights. Third is DIY approach, which mostly startups doing. Like small startups may not have this dedicated research team or budget for extensive research. Founders and team members may need to take on research roles themselves. This can involve leveraging online resources, conducting informal usability testing, and using low cost or free research tools to gather insights. Iterative and flexible research, mostly startups do. Startups often iterate and pivot quickly based on the feedback and market change, basically. So
Right.
research efforts should be flexible and adaptable to accommodate change in the product or services direction. So as compared to that, large market have the like more resources, budget for research comprehension. Research plan can be developed, including various research methods such as usability testing, user surveys, focus groups, and ethnographic research based on the budget, cost, and all different factors. Second thing is representative sampling in large companies. Like large companies may have the wider target audience with diverse user segments, so ensuring representative sampling is essential to capture insights from different user groups. For example, banking in India, there are different user groups who are using banking. For example, illiterate, literate, educated, or
Mm-hmm.
there are banking. There are bankings for the millennials, or there are banking for the old ones, right?
Right.
So there are different type of user segments. And then third is the formalized research process. Like every large company has their own research process, right? Large companies have establishing research process and methodologies. So research efforts may be more formalized and standardized, involving large research teams and specialized roles such as dedicated UX researchers, data analysts, and research managers, right? Again, there are the collaboration with the cross-functional teams in large companies. Third is one another factor is like long-term research initiatives. Like
Mm.
there are some projects where there are the long-term initiatives. Long companies may invest in long-term initiatives such as longitudinal studies, right? To gather insights over an extended period of time, or monitoring user behavior in the field research, right? And preferences. These initiatives can help informing strategic decision and guide product roadmap.
Right.
So these are the differences how large companies do research and how startup companies do research.
No, thank you for that. And I think that's definitely super useful for anyone out there listening that like is trying to figure out like where they see themselves and where they fit in. So Mansoor, my question to you is what part of the process of the UX research process do you like the most? Was there something you really liked about working in the startup space? Is there something you really like about working at IBM and like that long-term research? What to you is most exciting?
The most exciting part is the field research and the user interviews, because in that, first of all, you have to fight with your own biases, and second thing is that you understand like the new stories of the book are opened up in those things. So these are the
Yes.
most exciting part for us, like what our hopes and what our hopes and what our assumptions are. And sometimes it totally reverse when we do the user interviews and when we do the field research or observations.
I love that. Do you
Yeah.
have an example of like um uh field research user interviews that like completely changed the way you were working on a specific product or piece of a
Yeah,
product?
let me tell you, I was doing the thesis on the healthcare in rural areas of India. So I was making the connections between the hospital as well as the patient. But when I did the field interviews and interviews, what I find out, there are the local doctors in every village, where we called them RMPs. So it was new to me, totally new to me. Like if someone get ill, right? He directly don't go to the hospital. First, he consult to the RMP, and then RMP take that person to the hospital. So that
Oh,
was totally new to me. The whole ecosystem was totally new to me. So my assumption was that it was same like people get ill, how he get to the hospital, and extra. But when I did these kind of research, the whole ecosystem was different. So there was the connection, there was the intermediate between the hospital as well as the patient. There was the RMP. Same as that the pregnant lady, if there is some pregnant lady, so there are the ashas we call them ashas in the village, who take those pregnant ladies to a particular hospital and take precautions while taking to the hospital to the patient.
right. You had to like completely rework what you were building because you hadn't factored in this role, this
Yeah,
person.
obviously, same like design research is always a iterative process.
Right.
So it depends. It depends upon your assumptions and hopes, your context, and you validating the things and you getting back to the research if something goes wrong.
That was a great example. I feel like one of the values I always get of doing research is like, I learned something new. I learned something that I never knew before, and it like opens this door, and it's like very exciting and interesting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think this is a great segue into this next question, which is how does conducting research versus not doing it have an impact in design? I think we just kind of talked about it with your example, but maybe even some data points or some ways to communicate that to stakeholders too, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't see the value of design. So how do you
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
define it?
These days, like I already told you, like no one knows the importance of research, and for the cost cutting thing, they always cut the research part, and they want the rapid thing. They want their product fast, right? And they don't need these kind of research or that kind of research. Their stakeholders and client all have to deal with the product only. That's it. So, like conducting research, how research can help, like first of all, that is user centric design, like making the product more valuable. Research comes into the play. Like conducting research allows designer to gain insights into the needs, preferences, and behaviors, as I already said. These help ensuring that design is user centric, addressing the real needs and the pain points of the target audience. For example, same example, if the user want to drink water in glass, and we are providing them water, like both are doing the same thing, but still they have the different experience of glass and bottle, right? So this is most important, like how we are providing the insights to the designers. So on the basis of that, they make a valuable product. Second is like informed design decisions. Like researcher provides designer with data driven insights that inform their design decisions. It helps them make informed choice about design elements such as layout, navigation, content, and interactions. Talking about the UI design, without research, designers may rely on the guesswork or intuitions, or may know the half part of the thing. Like if a designer is collaborating with the BA, so BA will only provide the business perspective, but what about the user perspective, right? Because at the end, product has to be used by the user, right? Uh, One more thing is reduce the risk of design mistakes. Third is like increase user satisfaction, and the value of research is like more into the market success. For example, research can provide valuable insights into the competitive landscape, market trends, and user preferences, helping designers creating product or services that are more likely to succeed in the market. Understanding user needs and preferences can also help identify unique value propositions and differentiation opportunities. Without research, high risk there is high risk of developing product or services that do not align with market demand, result in lower market success, right?
Yes.
Third is efficient, yeah, efficient design process. Research can streamline the design process by providing designers the insights and guide their decision making. So, like research is more into the understanding the ecosystem as well as the user and user problem, and then they collect those data. They on the basis of anatomy of insights, they analyze those data. They extract those insights from those data, and on the basis of that, they made a conclusion.
Yeah.
So that,
Two things you said that like really spoke to me and like felt really impactful was you were saying like a lot of companies, they have their business perspective. They come and they know what on a business level they want to achieve, but they're missing the user perspective, right? And I think that's really powerful because I feel like there's so many people who are like, oh, it's about the business, the goals of the business. And
Correct.
then you also brought up like the market success and going into the ecosystem. And that's so true, is like, no matter what the business perspective is, if you don't know the trends and you don't know what the users want, your product's going to flop. And so by not doing those things and not getting
Yeah,
that user
exactly.
information, and not even
Yeah.
user information, even like stats about what's happening in the market now, I kind of like, I don't always think about user research in that way, but of course that's a huge part of it. Like, you guys are seeing the trends and understanding what's
Correct.
popular.
Let me give you an example, a very good example. Like, for example, everyone right now is uh, like no Pepsi, right? Pepsi is a drink, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
for the you also look the Pepsi ads, right?
Yes.
So there is lot of research behind those ads. Like, for example, they are connecting to the people through football sometime, through some kind of actor or some kind. Why that? Because they know what user want, how user is connecting with the, how user is emotionally connected with the product. So on the basis of that, these are the research insights, right? Which is gathered. So on the basis of that, they made those ads. So this is the good example, like why research is important.
Right, for sure. It's like understanding. It's like people are like, oh yeah, obviously I need to understand who my users are, but they don't think about the stages to get there. And yeah, like you're saying, like the
Yeah,
ads are targeted because of all of this background research and knowledge and years of like discovery to get to this
yeah,
really
exactly.
simple ad, which is what we were talking about at the beginning. It's like we're trying to create an experience that's like seamless for the user. So it feels like so effortless, which is great, but you
Yeah,
don't know what it took to get there.
yeah. Sometimes to make something simpler needs a lot of hard work.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That's super interesting and fascinating. I think it definitely is like a big point of why research is so valuable in building a
Uh,
process. So I would like to know, how do you decide which research method to use? So I know we didn't talk about the specifics. We talked about like user testing and gathering that, and we also talked about like the analysis. So how do you decide what research to do, and how do you present it to the people that are looking for that research, whether it's designers or stakeholders?
there are the different strategies of doing the thing. For example, for fintech, maybe for banking, there will be my research strategy will be different as compared to for my healthcare strategy, right? So
Right.
there are different strategies, but talking about the research methods, what we need, like for example, we need a research planning first, right? How to do a research. So first we do the research planning for that. So on what basis we do those research planning? That is what are the project goals? What are the research questions? Who are our target audience? What are the project timeline and resources? Research validity and reliability. What are the reliability? What are the ethical considerations, if there are protocols or not? What are the ethical considerations? What are the research budget at the time, right? And talking about the research steps, like we want to, what we have to do. For example, we did some ethnographic research. Now what next, right? So like what context we have and what we want. On the basis of these two things, we make our next step. Right. So, like for example, the project goals, the specific goals of a project should be considered when selecting research methods. For example, if a goal is to understand user needs and preferences, methods such as user interviews, surveys, or focus group may be appropriate. If a goal is to evaluate the usability of the product, methods such as usability or eye tracking may be relevant. Right. Research questions. The research questions that need to be answered should guide the choice of research methods. Different research methods are better suited to address different type of research questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, if a research question is about user behavior in a natural environment, methods such as field studies or ethnographic research may be suitable. If a research question is about user opinion or attitudes, methods such as survey or interview may be appropriate, right? So there are the different things like how we can, these are the different steps like how we are planning our research methods for the different things.
Right. Do you have a research method that you go back to again, like that you use more than any other?
Mostly I did the user interviews these days.
Well,
So
that's what you said was
yeah,
most fun for you too, so that's great. It aligns with what you
yeah,
enjoy.
no, because in IBM we mostly work on those projects like they are also the corporate projects.
Okay.
So it was very important and administrative projects. So it is very important for us to like interview with those things. What are the different ecosystem or what are the different pain points? Because we don't know. Like for example, we are creating something for the hiring talent acquisition team, or we are doing something for the insurance and loan team, right? So we don't know about banking or we don't know about hiring or what are the
Got it.
pain points between that, right?
Got it.
So
And so do you think that interviewing is the best research method for designers? Like maybe if they don't like where they're starting, maybe if they don't really know much about the UX research process, do you think that interviews is a great place
yeah,
for them to dive
for me,
into?
interview gives you in-depth insights, and it is more flexible, right? And it is more user-centric approach because we are directly approaching with the users, and it is a iterative feedback. Like we are interviewing something on the basis of that we comes to a conclusion, and if it fail, we can again go back and do some more interviews, do some questionnaire, can change our questionnaires to gain that, and it is also cost effective. So like I think like user interviews is more recommended.
And so another question about the research, how do you deliver this research? How do you deliver these insights and suggestions based on the research that you conducted?
So there are something called we pitching, right? In the same way I told you about the playbacks also, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to the insights, when we comes to the insights, we come with our sponsor users, we come up with the different stakeholders, and we do the playbacks and we pitch our insights in those playbacks. And if there are something like we are not there are some mismatch between the stakeholders and our research, so they provide other insights also on the basis of our insights, they provide feedbacks, right? If there are technology constraints or technology something, so developers and engineers also provide their feedback. So on the basis of the feedback, we'll do more iterations, right? So these insights are provided in those playbacks, and those insights can be reiterated on the basis of the feedbacks by the different elements of the team.
That's great. I really
Yeah.
like this concept of the playbacks. And I think it's also like one of the things you talked about at the beginning about being a great UX researcher is collaboration. And so it feels like this is an opportunity for everyone on the team to come together, to hear, to give feedback, to say this is misaligned, and for you guys to like make decisions of what to iterate on, what to talk about, what to do next.
All right. All right.
Amazing. And so one of my next questions, which I think is a great point about this, is like, how can researchers and designers work together to find the value and insights?
Again, there our research data or insights is not valuable if you don't give it a shape. Like there will there where designers come into play. Like we are providing the insights, and the designer give it a shape, right? For example, same like if we are providing they want people want to drink something into something big, and they are providing the glass, they are providing two three solutions, there should be glass or there should be a bottle. So they are giving a shape to our insights, right? So that is where designers come into play. Second thing is I already said, like we are doing the playback. So like stakeholders, they don't understand if we will use some technical terms, if we will say like persona, or we did some ethnographic research, or we did some quantitative data. This is the quantitative data, 20% this, 30% this. They will not understand that,
Right.
right? But if we will provide our insights into the storytelling way, everyone will understand and empathize with the user at that time. And there where the designers come into play, that visual presentation, storytelling, real world example, data visualization, contextual relevances. So it is like that, where designers and researchers are both come together and give something valuable to the stakeholders, so that they
Yes.
can make something valuable. Yeah.
Yes. Well said. I love that. I think it's like showing the collaboration, the teamwork is you come up with all these insights and then what? And that's basically that action step. It's like designers take it and design options based on what you're saying and putting it out there and getting stakeholders to see and actually visualize and empathize with those solutions. So it really is
Yeah.
like a very collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Which totally
Exactly.
makes sense. Just
Yeah.
didn't always think about it that way. Well, that's great. That's great. So a couple more questions, I think more broad about UX research from your perspective are, what are some of the misconceptions people have about UX research?
Yeah. That I want to address that. Like most of the people or most of our clients or stakeholders think like UX research is a time consuming and expensive. So to address that, I want to say that while conducting through UX research can require time and resources, it doesn't always have to be overly time consuming or expensive. There are various research methods that can adapt to fit different project scope and budget. Right. So research approach that allows for iterative and efficient research within project timeline. So it makes more value to the to your product. At the end, you want your product more valuable, and you want more sales. If talking about the business perspective, right? So, like these misconceptions, so UX research will all help in that. So this is the misconception, like UX research is time consuming and expensive. Second is like UX research is only for large companies or complex projects. So I already told you like how startup companies doing the research and what are the most efficient way of doing the research in less cost or like less time, right? Second misconception is like UX research is only about usability testing. No, it is about understanding the users and their pain points and their behavior with the existing product or with the problem, right? One more thing is that one misconception is that UX researcher is only for identifying problems. So why addressing that, like while UX research can help identify usability issue and pain points in user experience, it is not limited to just finding problems. UX research also aim to understand user behavior, preferences, motivation, needs, what are the user perspective, what are the business perspective, what are the protocols, and to generate insights that inform the design process. It is important to communicate that UX research is not focused on identifying problems, but also on uncovering the opportunities for innovation and improvement.
Those are great. Those are amazing misconceptions. And I feel like I've had conversations with my customers and they've named like all of these as why they don't want to conduct research, and they're misconceptions because all of that is false. I think that the big point about, and we talked about this at the beginning, is that time and money. They're like, oh, it's going to be expensive, it's going to take too much time. But what they don't realize is by not doing it at this stage, that there's the potential that they're going to be spending way more money and wasting way more time when they build a product that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah. Even I'm doing more user interviews, but people always says like user researchers only do user interviews, but they don't know like user research can involves various kind of things like qualitative, quantitative methods beyond user interviews, such as contextual inquiry, field study, survey, data analysis, and more. Right? So people don't know about that these days. So it is very important for us to make them understand what is the importance of research.
yeah, and I really love what you said about the researcher's job is not just to identify problems, because I feel like we do have that mindset of like, oh, they're going to find out what's wrong with it, but they're going to find out what's right, and they're going to find out opportunities. Like, oh, this is super interesting that I've gathered insights from all of these tests. Like, we should be thinking about this, and that's like invaluable. That's invaluable content.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that was great. Awesome. So I have one final question for you. The question is, what advice would you give to designers who are just starting to work with UX researchers, and what should they expect from that collaboration?
First of all, to the designers who recently joined with the researchers, like they have to be patient. They have to they have to keep patience, like to help them in providing the insights to the stakeholders in more storytelling way. First, if researchers are providing insights to them, or they are finding some insights on their own, so it is very important to have regular team ups with the researchers to understand like at what hill they are. Hill means at what path they are. Right. Second thing is that like designers, if designers and researchers are working together, so designer expect like he can always researcher also can visualize the thing, or they can make the visual designs and all that. That so it is like very important to also empathize with the researchers. Also, if you are empathizing with the users, it is very important to empathize with your teammates also, as well as the researchers also have to keep patience. They always provide insights in that manner, and they should have the liver to digest the feedbacks.
No, that's great. I think this last point was was like how to work best with a team and to understand. And I think you brought up a good point, is like, while you personally do have a design background, you got your master's in kind of the UX design, but a designer's expectation should not be that a UX researcher is going to be able to visualize the solution. Like, it's more of coming with that data and like brainstorming or taking it and taking those insights and
Yeah,
doing something with it. So it's
yeah,
like empathizing,
exactly.
understanding the researcher, understanding their data points, and
Yeah,
discussing from
yeah,
there is
yeah,
powerful.
right,
Patience,
right,
for sure.
right.
For
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Those are all the questions I had. I feel like this was super insightful, from a designer standpoint of like how you go about research and how we should be thinking about that relationship between a team and a researcher, and also how to better communicate to stakeholders and people what the value of research is and why every single person, every
Yeah,
company should be doing that research, how incredibly
correct,
useful it is.
correct.
So Mansoor, thank you so much for your time. This was really, really great. And I can't wait for everyone to listen to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Even I'm exciting for it.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We will definitely keep in touch and chat soon about research.
Yeah, right, right. Whenever you want to. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.